Bird YouTube channel. In this video, I will show you everything you need to know to make the World Traveler long cardigan. This is a crocheted sweater that uses several balls of Red Heart color skein yarn and a size L or an 8mm crochet hook. Go ahead and grab the free pattern, which is available at redheart.com. I've put a link to the pattern and the materials list in the video description box right down there below. And while you're down there, don't forget to smash that like button, as my kids say. Once you have your materials and the free pattern, join me back here and we will get started. Just like with any sweater pattern, you want to make sure you're following along with the instructions for the size you're making. If you take a look at the pattern, you will notice first off that there are different amounts of yarn needed for each different size of this pattern. This pattern is written to go from a small medium all the way up to a 4X, 5X. So make sure you have enough yarn for whatever size you're making. You will also notice that the small medium size is the first number written outside of the parentheses, and then the large extra large is the next number. The 2X, 3X is the middle number inside the parenthesis, and the 4X, 5X is the number at the very end inside the parenthesis. My first advice is that you take a highlighter and you highlight the size that you are making. If you know that you will be making, for this example, a small medium, you want to make sure that you highlight all of the numbers that pertain to that small medium. By doing so, you are making sure that you are not going to accidentally follow along with one of the other numbers for the other sizes. This is just a really good habit to get into whenever you're dealing with a pattern that has multiple sizes. Once you've highlighted all of the numbers in your pattern, let's go ahead and learn how to do the stitch pattern. The World Traveler long cardigan has us use the waffle stitch pattern for the body of this cardigan. We're going to learn the waffle stitch and make a gauge swatch all at the same time. So I will begin by placing a slip knot directly onto my hook, and I want to chain an even number of chains. So I'm going to do 20 chains. Once you have the 20 chains, let's go ahead and work row 1 of the waffle pattern. For row 1, you will skip 2 chains. You never count the loop on your hook. So we skip 1, we skip 2, and then in this third chain here, we will place a half double crochet. So I've yarned over my hook, went into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through all 3 loops on my hook. We want to work half double crochets in each chain all the way down this row. One thing I want to point out is you will notice as I make my stitches, I tend to grab the bottom part that I just went in and pulled up a loop, and I will hold on to it so that way it stabilizes the stitch and it doesn't tend to overstretch that stitch. It makes it so that way my row gauge is more consistent. So you'll notice I yarned over, go into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, and it's at this point I usually will grab that area that I pulled up a loop and just kind of hang on to it and stabilize it, and then yarn over and draw through all 3 on my hook. It just makes for a more clean and consistent stitch. Once you get all of the chains worked into with the half double crochet, we then will go ahead and turn our work. As we begin row 2, I want to point out that this stitch pattern is a 1 row repeat. What that means is once you have learned row 2, you've learned the entire stitch pattern. We start off with a chain 2, and it's important to note that that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. You will then yarn over your hook, and working into this first stitch, we will do our half double crochet. Now, working into the next stitch over, okay, right there, we want to do a slip stitch. So we insert our hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the loop on your hook. We want to do a half double crochet in the next stitch, and a slip stitch in the next stitch. Half double crochet in the next stitch, and a slip stitch into the next stitch. I do want to point out that it's very easy to accidentally start making those slip stitches really tight. And if you do that, as you're working along on your cardigan, you'll notice that your body of the cardigan will begin to be tighter towards the top than it is at the bottom. So as you're working these slip stitches, you want to make sure that you are not accidentally pulling that slip stitch too tight. Okay, just try and find a way that is consistent for you that makes the stitches nice and even. You finish off the row with a slip stitch into that first stitch you created. So you start off the row with your half double, you end with your slip stitch. That's the entire stitch pattern. What I need you to do now is to go ahead and continue on this little swatch until it measures at least 4 to 6 inches. At that point in time, you will measure your stitches on the swatch to make sure you're getting the exact same gauge. When a designer writes a pattern, they always give you a gauge. The gauge tells you how many stitches and how many rows they got over a certain number of distance using a pattern that is typically used in the actual piece. The designer then uses that calculation to be able to mathematically figure out how many stitches you need to do in order to get the size you're making. Therefore, when you are working on this gauge swatch and you work up your 4 to 6 inches, when that is done, you want to measure your gauge swatch and make sure you are getting 10 1/4 stitches and 12 rows over 4 inches. If you find you are getting too many stitches, that means your stitches are too small and you need to go up a hook size. If you're getting too few stitches, that means your stitches are too big and you need to go down a hook size. I want to let you know it is totally okay to have to change hook sizes in order to get gauge. And when you're making a sweater pattern, it's important that you're making it so that it's going to fit, right? You don't want it to be too small or too big. So this is an important step. Once you've finished your gauge swatch, then you can go ahead and you can chain the total number of stitches you need to do for the size you're making. Once you have chained that number, you will then work in the waffle stitch pattern over the distance that's written for the size you are making. Now I've gone ahead and worked up a very small sample so that way you can get a good idea of how this is going to look on yours. Let's take a look at my little sample that I have worked up down here, and this is not a size that's written in the pattern. I have constructed my own measurements so that way I could demonstrate how to construct this sweater. You begin down here at the back of the sweater by chaining the number of stitches you need to chain for the size you're making. Then you work 1 row back of half double crochets, and that counts as a right side row, which is very important. And if you are like me, you like to use stitch markers, and this is a great point where you could actually put a stitch marker on the right side of your fabric so that you know that is the right side. Once you get past the half double crochet, you jump into the waffle stitch and you will work that up without any increases for the distance that's written in your pattern. And this represents the full back of your cardigan, okay? Once the back of your cardigan is complete, it would look just like that, okay? So none of this would be here. It would just be this long rectangle. That's when you want to then begin doing the shaping for the fronts. You would work the right front by working across a certain number of stitches and then stopping, leaving the rest of these stitches unworked. You will work in waffle stitch pattern back and forth even until the pattern tells you to begin working increases. The increases are very easy to work, and I'll show you how to do those here in just a second. You would work the increases out for the multiple times it's written in the pattern, and then you work even down to the end of the pattern. At the very end of the row, you would finish off with a row of half double crochets, and then that would be it for this side of the sweater. Then it's time to work on the left front, and that's where I am at this point. So that is a brief overview. Let's go ahead and do the left front on this side, and that will help you understand the right front as well, I do believe. What you're essentially doing is taking the back of the cardigan that you just created, and you're eliminating the center stitches. That way your head and neck can fit there. So we've worked this section for the right front, and now we're going to work this section for the left front. So in the pattern, it says that you need to skip a set number of stitches right here for the back of the neck. And then you will join with a half double crochet into the next stitch. So to join with the half double crochet, what I like to do is place a slip knot on my hook. Okay, oop, that did not work well. Let's do that again. Let's place a slip knot on my hook. And then I'm going to prep my hook like it was a half double. So I would yarn over my hook, and I'm going to hold that loop so it doesn't go anywhere, okay? And then I've already marked where I need to go as far as where my stitch needs to go. So because I need to put my stitch right here, I've marked it 1 over. And I am going to go into where my stitch needs to go. And what you'll notice is the stitch you're going into will help you maintain the waffle stitch pattern. So when you go into the stitch and yarn over and pull up a loop, notice I'm keeping all of these loops still down here on the throat of my hook. When I yarn over and I draw through all 3 of those loops, okay, my slip knot is up here at the top, but I've joined with a half double crochet. Now I jump into my stitch pattern just like I've been doing all along. So I do my slip stitch and then my half double crochet into the next stitch. Slip stitch, half double crochet into the next stitch. So on and so forth. You would do this all the way to the end of the row. So it's going to be the end of this section. And when we work back, we're only going to work back across these stitches that we're creating. Okay, you see that? Now I do want to point out I did not match up the colors, so they're going to be the same on both sides. If you wanted to, all you would need to do is grab your new ball of yarn and maybe just try and match up the colors. That way the sequence would be the same on both sides if that's something you want to do, but you don't have to do that. Okay, so we have worked row 1, and now you'll notice in the pattern it says that we turn our work and the next 8 rows are worked even, which means you're only going to work across this number of stitches that you have for your left front, but you're going to work in the same stitch pattern that you've been working on, just like all of this, without any increases. So you will just jump right back into any stitch pattern that to the stitch pattern you've been using. Okay, when you get to row 9, that's when things change up a little bit and we begin to increase a little bit on the fronts, so that way it covers the front of our body a little bit more as we are wearing the cardigan. So let me get this little piece to that point so I can show you how to work those increases. Once you've reached row 9, you will begin this row with an increase, which makes sense, right? We want the increases to go in towards the body. So we will begin this row with an increase. So we start off with our chain 2. We will work a half double crochet, a slip stitch, and a half double crochet all into this first stitch. Then we carry on with our stitch pattern. So we would do a slip stitch to the next stitch and a half double in the next stitch. You will notice that this increase is slightly different here on this side than on this side. On this side, it's a slip stitch, half double crochet, slip stitch into that last stitch. Over here, we did a half double, slip, half double. As I set this down, you can see already that this is where this section is going to start coming in to meet over there. At this point, you want to repeat rows 2 through 9 3 more times. By doing so, you will then have increases coming in towards the center of the body, and they will almost meet up on both the front and the back. On my little sample here, I didn't need that many increases, so I've already done the 2 I need to do. And then what I will do now is just work even all the way down until my front here almost meets the back. So what I mean here is, let me flip this over. As soon as the front of my piece reaches to just before this row of half double crochets, that's when I will stop doing my waffle stitch pattern and I will do my row of half double crochets to finish off my work. That's what I did over here on the opposite side as well. And you can see it just makes that this half double crochets here at the finish match up to the ones that I started off with also, okay? So it just makes it look nice and clean. Don't worry if your edge looks a little bit jaggedy, just like this one. It's totally okay. This side tends to look a little bit more smooth. Hopefully you can see that. This side tends to look a little bit more smooth than this side here. But when we do the finishing edging around the body, the neck portion, when we do the finishing edging around the neck of the cardigan, that will clean all of that up. So I'm gonna go ahead and work straight down at this point, and that's what you should do as well once you're done with your increases. As you come up to the last half double crochet you're going to complete, you do want to go ahead and snip your yarn, leaving at least 4 to 6 inches of a tail. So I like to go ahead, yarn over, and pull that through. And as I set this sweater down, let's point out a couple things. Obviously, I have gone ahead and added the sleeve to the right side of my piece. I wanted to have this whole side completed before I showed you this side on camera. But you can see that our fronts, hopefully you can see, I wonder if I put my pattern underneath here so you can kind of get the distinct difference of how the two are. Maybe that's better. You can see how the fronts come out. Again, it's okay that those are a little bit more jagged, but they look the same on both sides as far as the shaping, the length, the finishing. Everything is really nice and all in one piece. So yours right now doesn't have the sleeve, but it looks just like this, right? Coincidentally, that's exactly how the schematic looks, right? If I set this down, that's the schematic. Can you see it? So that's what we've done. We started back here, which is right here. We've done our neck opening, and then we've come in and we've created the fronts. So what we need to do now is add the sleeves. So what we are going to do is on the right side of our fabric, we want to measure out 10 inches. So it'd be 10 inches for you. It's a lot less for me because this piece is a lot smaller. But from the back of the neck, you essentially want to make sure that you're measuring 10 inches down from the back of the neck on this side, 10 inches down from the back of the neck on this side. So mine are only 4 inches from either side, but let me show you what I mean. As I come up here, you can see from this is the back of my neck, I have 4 inches wide and I placed a marker. And then the back of my neck going the opposite direction, I went 4 inches wide and I placed a marker. At those markers, I then single crocheted into the edge of my rows right there. I put 2 single crochets into each half double, and then I just worked back and forth working single crochets until I got this sleeve. So now that I've shown you how I did that side, let me show you how to do this side. Okay, so first thing, you want to make sure the right side of your fabric is facing you. You will take some markers, and we will use these markers to mark our starting points. And then I'm going to begin at the back of the neck, come down about 4 inches right here, and I'm going to mark that. Now I'll do the same on the opposite side. So the back of the neck, we'll just start at the 4, come over here, and mark that. Okay? Now that I've marked the section where I want my sleeve, I have to join the yarn and create the sleeve stitches. Okay, I've rotated my work, I have my stitch markers in place, and I'm ready to create a sleeve. So what I will do is working into the edge of these rows and only working around those half double crochets, I'm going to place 2 single crochets into each half double crochet. So let me grab my yarn. I will join with a slip stitch at the first marker. So I'm going to join with a slip stitch at this first marker. And then I will jump in. So I will chain 1, and working at this first marker, I am going to do 2 single crochets. I'm going to go to the next half double crochet, it's right here, and I will do 2 single crochets. Go to the next half double and do 2 single crochets. See how this works? I'm going to do this all the way to the second marker. Ideally, I will have the same number of single crochets on this sleeve as the sleeve I've already created. If I wanted to mark that number down and try and be consistent with the two, I absolutely could do that, but I will leave that up to you. And in my notes, I started and ended with that marked stitch, so I think that I'm already there. I'm going to just look at this side real quick. Yeah, that's where I ended. So that is my 4 inches and 4 inches. I now have a series of single crochets set up. Once you've created your single crochets along the edge of your sweater for the sleeve, you will work a series of rows of just single crochets. Actually, you will work rows 2 through 15 just working single crochets and then finish off. Really simple. When you've reached the correct measurement for your sleeve, go ahead, give that a snip and finish off. And the sleeve should be complete. Go ahead and take the time now to weave in your ends so that way you don't have to worry about them later on. Now that we've finished the sleeves, we can begin the front edge of this cardigan. Oh my gosh, isn't this super adorable? You can feel the finish line coming up so soon. This is really an easy step in the entire cardigan, and it really brings it all together. We're going to do the border around the front of the cardigan and around the back of the neck. Just as we did when we worked the sleeves, we are going to place 2 single crochets into each half double crochet along these edges. And then as we work across the back of the neck, we will work the stitches as indicated in the pattern. Once we have worked 1 full row of just their single crochets into the fabric, then we just work all the way around, or each row back and forth for 5 rows until we get a little chunk of fabric built up along the front. Super easy. Let's go ahead and get started. You will go ahead, it's the same hook you've been using all along, and with the right side facing you, you want to join your yarn with a single crochet in the bottom of the right hand corner. So I'm going to join my yarn right here, okay? And to join with a single crochet, I like to put a slip knot directly onto my hook, go in to that edge, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Now that we've created that single crochet right there at the start, we will jump into the 2 single crochets around each half double crochet. So I have a half double crochet right here, so I will work my 2 singles. Go to the next half double and work your 2 singles. We will do this all the way around this front neck opening. When you get to the back of the neck, you will simply single crochet into each one of the stitches that you left open for the back of the neck. Finish off the row with a single crochet in that final edge that you did, okay? And now what you will notice as you lay your piece down, everything should look Nice and even and looking pretty good. Now we will just continue working our rows even back and forth just like this, and we'll get a nice little edging. So let me go ahead and get that part done now. Go ahead and weave in your ends, any extra ends you might have. Once the piece is complete, you can set it up to see how it's going to lay together. Looks really good if I say so myself. And the last part of this sweater is seaming up the sides. Super easy. You could do a whip stitch, you could do a mattress stitch, or you could do a crochet join. Totally up to you, whatever way you prefer. I'm going to just do a quick whip stitch. So all I will do here is, this is right side out, so I'm going to make it so that way I have it wrong side out, so I have the right sides together. Okay, right sides together. And then starting at the bottom of the cardigan, I'm going to match up my edges. Okay, I'm going to match up my edges just like so. And then I'm just going to start to whip stitch together. I will use the yarn that I used in the actual project. My bent tip tapestry needle. Start down here. I'm going to join with a figure 8. So I'm going to, you know what, I'll start on this side. I'll come in on this side. Give yourself enough extra string so that way you don't have to rejoin. I'm coming around, I'm coming back through this way and through that other. See, there's a figure 8 there. When I give that a pull, now my yarn is joined. I'm going to go ahead and snip that. Okay, so that just gives me my tail. Now with these matched up as evenly as I possibly can, I'm just going to whip stitch this cute little cardigan together. As you get going and your yarn kind of gets ratty a little bit towards the end because you've pulled it through so many, you can cut that off. But just make sure that you do weave in your tails nice and securely on the inside here. So I'm making sure that I do that so it doesn't come undone as it's being worn or washed or what have you. And then once I'm done with this side, I will go ahead and whip stitch the other side. Let's see how this thing looks. All right, mine seamed together. Let's see what it looks like. Gotta put it right side out. Oh, this is so cute. Oh, I forgot a tail. Shoot. Let me tuck this tail in. It was hiding from me. I didn't see it. Get that all tucked in because I don't want to miss anything. Ah, there we go. All right. Snip that. Oh, this is so cute. Look at that seam. There's the side seam. It's all seamed up together. I lay this down flat. Oh, this is so cute. This is so adorable, gotta say. Oh, I should put this on my little mannequin, my little baby or kid mannequin I have. You know what? I think I will. I'm gonna go grab it. Look how cute that is. Oh my gosh, that is so cute. Okay, let me go grab my little kid mannequin. Okay, I have my little kid mannequin here. Let's put this cardigan on. Oh my gosh, look how cute. Oh my goodness, how adorable, right? Imagine how great it's going to look on you. It's going to be equally adorable. I hope that you have enjoyed this video to make the World Traveler long cardigan. This is by my friend Ron Strong. He's a wonderful designer. This uses the Red Heart yarn, colorscapes, and as I mentioned, the size 8mm crochet hook. Along with this video and the free pattern, you're sure to make a really great cardigan for yourself. I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye. Hey, thanks for joining me today on the channel. If you want more videos just like that one, check out some of these other videos that I've already handpicked for you. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that way you're up to date whenever I release a new video. And don't forget, smash that like button, as my kids say. Bye guys.